Well, there, I'm surprised to find that I'm now on the fifth side, the third tape, no, yeah, it's the fifth side. And I think your idea of leaving some space on each one of the tapes to add things that I forgot or wanted to add was a real good idea. However, I didn't do it. And I guess part of the reason why I didn't do it was after a couple of the tapes I found that I couldn't remember all the things that I had said on any particular tape, so that trying to find the proper location to put an additional story or discussion was nearly impossible. So I'll interject things that I forgot or things that should have been put on previous tapes as we go along, and as I think of things that should have been added. And also, if you've gotten this far listening to all these tapes, you or your brothers or whomever have to be very, very patient people. And God bless you for that. Some information that comes to mind from my notes and adding to them was that when I was 5 or 6 years old, and we were at Sunset Bay, obviously, for the summer, so this would have been 1935, 1936, something like that. I had a terrible, terrible stomach ache, and I couldn't get comfortable. I would go from my bed to a chair to down on the floor, and I can recall, or maybe it's discussions with the folks, I can recall kneeling on the floor and leaning, where you would sit in a chair. I just couldn't get comfortable. And finally, I think I was in sufficient amount of pain that the folks took me up to Silver Creek to see Dr. Homake, I believe his name was, and he determined that I had appendicitis. And so I think I went into the Silver Creek Hospital, if there was one, or was transported back to Buffalo, I don't recall. But nevertheless, had operation, and they removed a somewhat inflamed appendix. And I'm sure I spent the rest of the summer recuperating from that. And while we're on the subject of Sunset Bay, Mom and Dad used to love fresh anything. And I think we would leave Sunset Bay and cross Route 5 and 20, I guess it was at the time. Yes, 5 and 20, still is. And go straight up the hill, Allegheny Hill, somewhere near the top, where there was a farm family. And in this family, there was Grandma and Grandpa, and they all lived in the great big farmhouse, an enormous farmhouse that had room for Grandma and Grandpa and their I think it was their son and his wife and their children. So there were 3 generations living in this big farmhouse, and the folks used to love to go up there and get beans and fresh corn, and on more than one occasion, a fresh killed chicken. And the farmer used to take great delight. And the first time I saw this happen, I was somewhat appalled but fascinated at the same time. He would somehow corral or catch a chicken take him over to the chopping block and proceed to put his head down on the chopping block, and with an axe, off came his head. Guillotine type of thing. And because the heart was still going, he would let the chicken go to run around the farmyard. And here's this poor chicken without a head, with blood squirting out of its neck, because the heart was still going and pumping and whatever have you, until it collapsed. That memory of that event and events stick in my mind. And I think once we got the chicken home, then it was part of our duty to sit there and pull all the feathers out from the body. And I think, my recollection is, I think we soaked it in water to make them either softer or easier to pull out. And of course, once you pull the feathers out, there's still little stubs there, so you had to be pretty careful and pull the rest of the stubs out. Get the bird as clean as possible before it was cooked in whatever fashion it was cooked. Here we go back to a previous conversation about our friends, the Heralds, and the incident with the choir and all that. For whatever bit of information, there was Richard, and there was Phil, and Steve, and Natalie. And again, bringing past conversations up to speed. Our source of entertainment was going to the show or listening to radio. And on radio, some of the advertisements and the commercials, when you'd listen to these various shows, recommended that you buy product A, whether it be Ovaltine or cornflakes or whatever it might be. And on the back of the box was a place where you could cut out and fill out an application and send in to become a member of a secret society. And when you bought the product and stuck $1 or something like that in an envelope and sent it off to General Mills or Ovaltine, as I say, you could become a member of this group. And they would give on the radio, they would give secret signals, and one of the things that you got was a decoder ring. And with this decoder ring, with the key numbers or letters given on the radio, you could turn the ring's head and decode messages. It was a very, very clever method of promoting a product and getting kids excited about telling mom and dad to go buy this product, Wheaties or Ovaltine, as I say. And we'd get badges, and we'd get membership cards that we could carry in our pocket or wallet. These became very dear. And of course, with other children in the neighborhood getting the same ones, we could do all kinds of wonderful things. And at about the same age and in the neighborhood, up on Woodland, probably halfway between Parkhurst and Parker, on the north side of the street, lived a lady, and I can't remember her name. Lindstrom seems to come to mind. But she was a member of the WTCU, the Women's Temperate Christian Union. and she used to corral kids in the neighborhood to come to her home, and she would have already prepared by this nationwide organization pieces of paper that needed to be, well, with diagrams and or pictures or whatever have you on there, to be colored in. And if you got all the crayons and colored in these pictures, it was like a coloring book type of thing. And if you colored them in nicely and stayed within the lines, most of the subject was on drinking and smoking, and why both of them were very, very poor. Again, Women's Temperate Union, Christian Union. And when we finished, I think we'd probably have a cookie or something like that. And when we promised that we would never drink and never smoke, she would give us a very, very shiny dime. And that was a big deal for a juvenile. Again, Lair and the other boys, I again apologize for putting these add-ons, but all these things that I'm talking about occurred when I was in my adolescence and in elementary school. If I had taken the time to prepare my notes better, I would have joined these things together. But sometimes these recollections come up as you begin living and talking about things that happened back then. When I mentioned that we and all three boys went to summer camp because of our involvement in the choir and Mrs. Green, the folks knew at that age, 8, 9, 10, that just like you guys, when you're away, you're busy or think you are, and you don't have time to sit down and write a note to the folks back home. So what Mom and Dad did, and I think some of these postcards and whatever have you are down in the basement in the photo albums. There were postcards, which I think were a penny at the time, and they were printed and they had a penny stamp already on them, and the folks would pre-address them, and all we had to do was fill in the other side. And filling in the other side was the typical, for somebody that age, "Hi, how are you? I'm fine. I went swimming today," or "I played baseball today," or "I did this," or "I did that," and then stuck it in the mail, and the folks would at least know I was still alive. But as I say, pre-printed or pre-addressed postcards to be sent back home during that 2-week period. And I think Dave and Doug experienced the same procedure. Again, while I was in elementary school, we had over at Lincoln School down in the basement a fairly simple woodworking shop, because I think both in maybe later elementary and or junior high school, they had woodworking shops, they had printing shops. I think this was in junior high school, and they also had metalworking, because it was very obvious back then that majority of people, I don't know whether majority or minority of people, probably wouldn't go on to college, and so they were trying to, in some way, introduce students to the various trades, be it metal, be it printing, be it woodworking, carpenters, printers, sheet metal people, to give you an idea of what you could do. And I think you guys all made various things. I think I've still got an item here that is a napkin holder that I think Larry made. I'm sure you other boys made other items. I don't seem to have kept them. I think there were ashtrays made out of clay and items like that. The point being that we were introduced to them. And since this was during the Second World War, I can remember vividly, part of our grade was determined we were on our ability to assemble after sanding wooden, I don't think it was balsa wood, but I think there were airplanes that needed to be sanded, glued together, and they were to be used to show people in the anti-aircraft field, military, what various planes looked like, the silhouettes. So we made these planes to be shipped on to wherever, so that anti-aircraft military would know what a Japanese Zero or an American Hellcat or Wildcat or whatever it was called looked like, so they wouldn't shoot down ours but could recognize the enemies. But that was part of our project, which served two purposes: not only giving us the ability to work with our hands and put things together, but also served a purpose in the war effort. As I believe I said earlier, Mom and Dad, Don and Marion, were very involved parents, not only in the Masonic work, but also in the PTA, in the Cub Scouts, president of the Sunset Bay Association. I think Dad loved organization, and as mentioned earlier, got in the Masonic Order when he was 21, so that would have been in 1922. Got in line to become Master of his Lodge in 1926, and then became Master of his Lodge in 1936. There is downstairs, I think, I know, in a frame, the gavel that purportedly David and I-6 and David 3, gave to Dad when he became Master. Obviously it was arranged through Mom, along with his apron that he wore as Master of his Lodge. And I think the ring that he wore, that I alluded to previously that Doug saw, I believe is in one of the shadow boxes that one of you boys have. And I will say that because of Dad's organizational desires and efforts in Masonic work and what have you, he didn't spend an awful lot of time with the boys. He was always going to a meeting or whatever have you. And I guess I followed suit in not being as available as I could have been in the evening when I had to go out on an appointment. So the apple didn't fall too far from the tree. And sometimes I look back on that period and wonder if I could have spent more time with you guys and what have you. What have you? Geez, where do I get that expression? But these are observations that I come to now. And often think of when when this is being reconstructed. My mother, as I said, both mother and father, were always very active and had to be doing something, whether it was organizations or... An example of it is obviously the Oriental rugs that my mother so laboriously constructed, and used to take great joy in taking them over and showing them to the Markarians, who were astounded at the number of stitches per inch or centimeter or what. It always amazed me, because back in those years it was a treat for us to be taken to the show, and if we went with Mom or Mom and Dad, one thing that always amazed me was that we could sit in the theater watching a movie, and my mother with her little ditty bag or knitting bag would bring it along, and she could sit there, and as I say, it amazed me. I couldn't figure out how anybody could do this. She was watching the movie and knitting in the dark, and not knowing anything about knitting or how it was done or who did what. I say, it still amazes me that this woman my mother could sit there and knit in a thoroughly darkened theater and have a sweater or a baby's item made or prepared or whatever have you. And I'm sure she did the knitting there and then maybe put the parts together later, but it still amazed me. And of course, here we were in the early stages of World War II, from 1941, when I would have been 11, 12, 13, 14, and we played, because we were out in the country and we didn't have a drugstore on the corner where we could go and hang out. We didn't have a bowling alley and the like. We got together, and there was just an endless number of fields and trees and the like, and we used to play soldier, because we would hear it on the radio, we'd see it, we didn't read the paper that much, but there was an awful lot of war stories that, as I said, we'd listen to on the radio. And so we had all kinds of equipment and play guns and play helmets and play, camouflage, or not so much camouflage, play clothes, and we'd play soldier. And thank goodness I was one of the older boys, so along with Rich Harold, but we had some other underlings that did our bidding, and we were the bosses and the leaders, and we had Rich Clark and David and others who were the grunts and did our bidding. And I think in the middle 40s, I think it was, a family bought the lot on the corner, I guess it was Carpenter and Parkhurst, right next door to our house. The house faced on Carpenter and butted up against our chimney. But it was Ray Penman, who had 3 or 4 children, and it was there that I first started doing some babysitting when the Penmans were going out. Another event occurred, kind of funny and sad at the same time. Some folks that lived kitty corner across the street from us, named the Eshborns. They had a boy and a girl, about David's age, as I recall. And the man, the father, Mr. Eschborn, worked for American Radiator, as I recall, over on Elmwood Avenue. And he and his wife were terribly distraught because they were paid on a hourly basis, even though he was in some lower level management position. And they could never determine what his pay was going to be, because depending on the number of hours of overtime and or no overtime, their income went up and down, and it wasn't constant, consistent, and it made it difficult for them to do any planning. Well, he had lobbied his employer for a long time that he wanted to have a salary, so he would know exactly how much money he was going to be able to bring home at the end of the week instead of this hourly basis. Well, ironically, American Standard agreed to his petition and put him on some kind of a salary. And then December 7th, 1941 occurred, and people were putting in multiple hours of overtime. But Mr. Eschborn didn't participate in the overtime, even though he worked longer hours. He was paid his salary, and other men were earning much more than he because they were putting in overtime and they were getting paid for it. I guess there's a lesson there. Be cautious as to what you ask for, because you may get it. In my early teens, for each one of us has dreams that we look forward to doing, whether it be Brian wanting to be a school teacher, and after the first year at Nazareth, finding out that that wasn't his calling, and did so much better transferring to business administration. I too had my heart set and thought this was a wonderful vocation to be a veterinarian. And in order to become a veterinarian, for a city boy, country boy, it was a little easier. For a city boy, you had to have at least 2 summers on a farm, acquainting yourself with farm animals, horses, cows, pigs, sheep, chickens. And so through my dad's contacts in the farm community, he was able to find a young couple, and I think she was pregnant at the time, a young couple who owned a farm out in Middleport, New York. So for 2 summers, and I can't remember, it was either 12 and 13, 13 and 14, 14 and 15, out I went the end of June and stayed there July and August. And my recollection is that I earned $100 each summer for 2 summers. And of course, anytime we went into town, and I would get a Coca-Cola or soft drink or ice cream or whatever it may have been, he kept track of it. And I think at the end of the summer, I had used up maybe $50 worth of goods. And so all he had to pay me was $50. Well, he paid me $100, but I used up $50 in goodies and $50 in cash. While I was there, I think for $10, I bought a .22 rifle and used it out there to shoot at targets. And I can recall one time hitting a bird, shooting at a bird, and I hit the bird and I killed it. And I never shot at anything alive again. And aside to that, I kept that gun, I think, in Mom and Dad's home. And when we bought our home on Coon Drive, I think I was given these things by my mother and father. And I put the rifle up in our closet, and soon thereafter decided I didn't want a gun in the house. And so I gave it to Raymond Blanford. That experience on the farm was good. There was one occasion, and again, I was in my early teens, there was one occasion where after a hard day's work, we got in the truck and drove into the town of Middleport. And normally I would go with them, and I'd have a Coca-Cola or soft drink at the bar that they went to. And on one occasion, either the farmer or the bartender said, "Well, give the kid a beer." So I had a beer. Well, you can imagine, never having had one before. You guys may have experienced this yourself, where you had the first occasion to have a beer. Well, I became very loosey-goosey. I was happy and not too well coordinated. Well, after a long day in the field and perspiring and hot, the beer just tasted good. But I, as I say, was very, very loose. When we got home, we still had to milk the cows, and that's another thing I learned how to do, is milk cows. And I can't remember how many there were. There might have been a half a dozen. Well, the farmer got the biggest kick out of me sitting on my stool with my bucket, and I guess I was squirting milk every which way, not doing a very good job. But he was very, very excited to see. He just almost rolled in the aisles watching my antics after I had a snoot full of beer in my early teens. But I sure did learn what hard work is and was, and the amount of time that a farmer puts into his vocation from very, very early morning, when you had to get up and milk the cows and do the work in the field, the plowing, the disking, all the things that farmers do. And then on occasions when it was rainy or poor weather, you'd be in the barn fixing various pieces of machinery that had broken down, or you couldn't waste a sunny day in the barn fixing something unless you couldn't do anything else without fixing it. But it taught me a lot working on the farm, getting my hands dirty. Slept very, very well at night because we had to get up early. And of course, when harvest time came, that's when other farmers would band together and help each other out. And the big meal of the day on the farm was at noon. And that's when you'd have potatoes and vegetables and some kind of meat, and the ladies would get together, almost like the movies that you see where the Amish do this on a regular basis. But during harvest time, boy, you had to get that wheat or corn or whatever it might have been in when the sun was shining, before it started raining or turning foul weather and the crop being lost. And as I recall, in my, maybe middle teens, was when I had my first experience with discrimination, even on a minor basis, when they had a mixer or a dance down at Trinity Church. And I thought, well, why not? I'll go down there. Because I was active either in the choir or as a acolyte or a crucifer. So I knew some of the guys, and we went down, and I'm sure we had records being played. But what I found was that when I asked a young lady to dance, even though I didn't know how to do it very well, we'd get into a conversation on the dance floor, and I would ask her questions like, where do you go to school? And she asked same questions of me. And I found out that when I asked where I went to school, I was fairly proud. I thought Kenmore was a pretty nice place and a nice high school, and I guess maybe it was when I was going to junior high school, but never. Well, when I told these young ladies that I went to Kenmore High School, and I said, "Where do you go to school?" and well, they said the SEM, and I thought, the SEM, what the hell's the SEM? Well, of course, that was the seminary. And I think there was one other exclusive high school that they went to, and as did the boys go to Nichols. This was a moneyed church, families. And I found out subsequently that these young ladies were told if they met somebody that went to a public school, get away. Don't have anything to do with them. Unless these boys go to Nichols, you don't even talk to them. So my time in the social area at Trinity came to a screeching halt right at that moment. They didn't want me, and I didn't particularly want them either. So that stopped there. Now, just to bring you up to speed as to my moving on to junior high school, again, remember I went to Lincoln School for kindergarten. Then I went for a few years to Lincoln Annex, and then I think back to Lincoln School for whatever, 4th, 5th, and 6th, and 7th and 8th. So what is middle now, or junior high school then, I remained at Lincoln School until the 8th grade. For those young people in Kenmore, they would go to the junior high school, because the senior high school was put up in 1939, Kenmore West, which was Kenmore at the time. Prior to that, the current middle school, Kenmore Middle School on Delaware Road, was the high school. It then became the junior high school, and for kids in the Kenmore Village area, 7th, 8th, and 9th is where they left elementary school and went to the junior high school on Delaware Road. So having been at Lincoln School through the 8th grade, I didn't enter Kenmore Junior High School until the 9th grade. It was in the 9th grade when I first met a lifelong friend, Rick Coates, because I think when we were in various homerooms, Coon and Coates sat together, and then of course we found out that our parents had known each other way back when, 25 years earlier. And oftentimes we would leave the high school and we'd go over to Rick's house, who lived on Warren Avenue in Kenmore. And we were, of course, at 3 or 3:30, we were starved to death. So poor Mrs. Coates must have gone through tons and tons of peanut butter, because we'd get there and we'd have to have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And in junior high school, you weren't allowed to become too involved unless you were exceptional in any of these sporting teams, be it football, be it track, be it swimming. Rick was quite a runner. I think he did an exceptional job later. I guess I enjoyed volunteering for things. As I told you earlier, I volunteered to go to Blessed Sacrament for religious instruction. The folks, the students in Kenmore that had been at the Kenmore Junior High School for 7th and 8th grade knew about this, but I didn't. And when asked if anybody wanted to volunteer, become part of the hall patrol, geez, I said, that's a good idea. I could do that during my study hall. And so I did. And here, boy, I was given a white belt, wide belt, that not only went around my waist, but went up over my shoulder, and I think I had some kind of a little badge on me. And my job was to patrol the halls during my study hour and make sure that everybody had either a pass or wasn't wandering around where they shouldn't be. It did allow me to get to know a lot of people, which was good. But the other students who had already spent 2 years in the junior high school, 7th and 8th grade, knew that they didn't want any part of this job. That I guess from their standpoint, the only people that applied for this job or got this job were those that were trying to suck up to the administration or the teachers or whatever have you. And fat, dumb, and happy Coon just said, okay, sure, I'll do that. I guess this volunteering stuff has got to come to a stop. And early on in my career at Kenmore Junior High School, my one-year career at Kenmore Junior High School, I met a young lady. I probably at a dance or get acquainted type of thing. Doris Bruderlin. And she lived on Kinsey Avenue, just a few doors, let's see, west of Elmwood Avenue. And became fairly romantically involved, and she used to go to, I think it was St. Mark's Episcopal Church over in Black Rock area. And so we'd go to church parties and dances and that type of thing. I was probably so much in love or thought I was. I used to get up just a little bit earlier, and instead of catching the bus, I'd walk down to Sheridan Drive, and I'd hitchhike. I'd hitchhike until I found a man who was, I think, going to work at Chevrolet, and he would pick me up at the corner of Parkhurst and Sheridan Drive, drive down Sheridan Drive to Elmwood, turn left, and drop me off at the corner of Kinsey. And it got to be a regular basis. I would then go over to Doris's house and was welcomed with open arms. And then we would walk from her house at Kinsey and Delaware Road down Kinsey and across Delaware and go to junior high school. Boy, was I in love. I guess I was somewhat naive regarding girls, because as I said, we played with the guys out in the fields. God bless Doris. She was a little bit more aggressive than most girls, and taught me things and showed me places and whatever have you that I didn't know existed before. So she was part of my education, and I think she passed away at a young age. I think once when I was away at college and came home for a vacation, I did get a telephone call from her that I think she wanted to pick up where we had left off in junior high school. But unfortunately, she passed away early on. boy, this is getting to be extensive. Now this is I'm getting close to the end here. This is the 6th side, and I'm just to a point where I'm finishing up at Kenmore Junior High School, and I'm going to advance on to the senior high school, the one at Delaware and Highland. And I've already used up 6 sides. It looks like, Larry, I may need to go and buy some more tape if I keep running off at the mouth like this. So since we're getting towards the end of the 6th side of the tape, part B on the third tape, why don't I just keep talking a little bit here until the machine stops, and I can go on to the next part of life at the senior high school. The reason I'd like to keep going until the tape stops is to make it easier when you put the tape in on the A side. This is the B side. When you put the tape in on the A side, it will start right from scratch, and you won't have to backtrack or rewind down to square one before you start listening to the other side.